on a special topic, that is cells, their structure and their function. Why do I call it special? Because it comprises about the human body and other living organisms. So let's begin it. So we all know that there are living things and there are non-living things. So all the living things require to perform certain functions. What are these functions? Digestion, excretion, circulation, and breathing. And for this we require organs and organ systems: digestive system, excretory system, circulatory system, respiratory system. And these organs are thus made up of very, very small entities which are known as cells, which we are going to talk about in today's class. So what is the cell? We can say that cell is a basic structural unit, the basic foundation for all the living things, how they are made. Like when we are making a building, then one brick after another brick is kept. So here we can compare one brick to one cell. So as a building is made with a brick, so is a living body made with cell. If we talk about the history of cell, it was discovered by Robert Hooke in 1665. He observed a cell under the microscope. So when we talk about living beings, there are two types of living beings. One which are unicellular, the other are multicellular organisms. So these living beings, these organisms, unicellular organisms, as we say in the name, it suggests that uni means one and cellular is cell. So basically, single celled organisms are unicellular organisms, and these organisms are organisms. Even in a single cell, they can perform all the necessary functions that they require. What are these necessary functions? As we talked about it earlier, it is basically taking in the food, digesting it, and excreting it out. And these unicellular organisms are like amoeba and paramecium. What are multicellular organisms? They are multicelled, as the name suggests, multi and celled. So, the multicelled organisms are multicellular organisms, and they also perform all their necessary functions. These includes humans, plants, and animals. And their system is extremely complex. There are millions and trillions of cells who work together, perform together for the living body to continue to sustain. So when we are talking about the cells, we now will talk about the shape of cells, and cells come in different shapes. They can be spherical like RBCs. RBCs are red blood cells. They can be spindle shaped like in the muscles. They are like this. So in our muscles, we find spindle shaped cells, and they can be long and branched like in neurons. Nerve cells, basically nerve cells. So let's revise what we had discussed earlier. Why cell is important, why we have to learn about cell. In the living things, we have to perform functions. For functions, we need organs, and for those organs, we require tissues. And these tissues what are tissues? Tissues are basically a specific set of cells which perform a specific function. A cell that is in heart cannot perform the function of respiratory system. Similarly, a cell in respiratory system cannot perform the function that is to be performed by the heart. So these specific cells in a specific performing a specific function, they all comprise together to form tissues. And the smallest unit of tissue, the smallest part of tissue is the cell. And that is how a body can function and sustain. So, what is cell structure? Cell structure consists of three things: cell membrane, cytoplasm, and nucleus. Let's talk about it one by one. What is cell membrane? So when we talk about animal cell, cell membrane, or even if we talk about the plant cell, it is basically the outer layer. It is the outer covering of a cell which constitutes inside a nucleus and a cytoplasm. And cell membrane gives shape to the cell. Also, it is porous in nature. So this cell membrane is porous in nature, which allows food to enter inside the cell and the excretions to come out of the cell. Another important thing that we must know in the plant cell is that in plant cell we have the cell membrane. This is the cell membrane. But before on the outer covering of cell membrane we have a cell wall. What is the function of this cell wall and what does it do? Just like in human body we have bones which help us, which protect our organs, the same function is done by cell wall for plants. So it protects, it gives the better shape, it gives the erect position for the plant, it keeps it in shape, it protects the plant from any adversity like atmospheric pressure, temperature, or high wind speeds. So cell wall gives it structure, it gives it strength, and it also helps the cell to protect itself, plant to protect itself. So there is cell membrane, that is the outer layer. Inside the cell membrane is the cytoplasm. What is cytoplasm? Cytoplasm is a jelly-like structure, jelly-like substance in which the nucleus and other parts, other things of the cell are floating. And there are different other things that you will be reading in the higher classes like organelles, mitochondria, Golgi bodies, etc. And cytoplasm is a jelly-like structure. So you will see that the nucleus is hanging in here, a food vacuole is hanging in here, and inside this, these dots you can consider them as cytoplasm. And everything is suspended in the cytoplasm. The another most important thing that is a part of cell is nucleus. It is spherical in nature and mostly in the center of the body, center of the cell. So basically it will always be in the center of the cell. So this nucleus also, the nucleus, if we open it, has a nuclear membrane. The outer layer of nucleus is a membrane which we call as nuclear membrane. It is also porous in nature, just like the cellular membrane, which allows for the going in and going out of the substances. Inside the nuclear membrane is a nucleolus. Why is it important? It is important because it contains chromosomes. Chromosomes are thread-like structures which carry genes. What are genes? So you must have heard someone telling you that you look like your father or your hair are just like your mother. So these features that you get from your parents, from your you inherit from your parents are genes, and these are found in the chromosomes, which are thus in nucleolus, and nucleolus is present in the nucleus, which is one of the most important part of a cell. Also, nucleus is the central or the control room of activities for the cell. So all the activities that are done in cell, the nucleus is basically the control room for that. So the other contents that are that can be present in cell are vacuole. Vacuole is basically an empty structure. So if this is a cell, this is the nucleus. So if you see one empty structure, this is vacuole. And you have plastids. In a plant cell, you will see various colored bodies. What do you mean by colored bodies? Colored bodies that contain pigment. So they are pigmented. What is a pigment? Pigment is something, some color, any color. It can be red, it can be green, it can be blue. Any color is a pigment. So that is why we call them colored bodies. So these plastids are generally present in plant cells, and when these plastids are green in color, when they contain green pigment, then they are known as chloroplast because they contain chlorophyll. So now let's revise the structure. Let's talk about the animal cell and the plant cell. So the animal cell has a cytoplasm. So this jelly-like structure is cytoplasm, and it has a nucleus. It also has a cell membrane. Now let's talk about the plant cell. In the plant cell, we have the cytoplasm, we have the nucleus, and we have the cell membrane. This is the cell membrane. What other things that we have are cell wall, and we have chloroplast, which contains chlorophyll, which are basically plastids, as we have discussed just now. So this completes our chapter on cell structure. The difference between animal cell and plant cell being that plant cell have cell wall while animal cell does not have cell wall. Also, plant cell has green pigments, plastids, green pigmented plastids that are known as chloroplasts, while animal cells don't have. This completes our chapter.